This is the Oakwyn Podcast, featuring Morgan Brown and Michael Yu.
Like there's people out of Ontario and out of the States that are YouTube celebrities now that have 150,000 followers on Instagram because of the creativity and time and I guess comedic representation that they put out through Instagram. And that's not really my personality, and I don't need to be a YouTube celebrity. I just want to be a guy that knows a crazy amount about real estate and can help people acquire wealth through real estate.
The real estate nerd, the real one.
Right.
That's amazing.
I'm curious. So basically, just you mentioned a couple main points. So like, in your trajectory. So like 2014 getting started, 2016 was a breakout year. So what happened between 2015 and 2016 to make it a breakout year for you and James?
Jamie was really good, and he was very much like me, worked a crazy amount of hours, very like self-educational, like spend a lot of time learning the business, and is really charismatic and people really like him. So he's a very social person and had a fairly large sphere of influence to reach out to. And he was successful really early, but he as an individual agent, you hit a wall at some point. Like there's only so many hours in a day to be in front of a computer or in front of clients.
Right.
And so I think he was in selling in the range of like 60 properties a year by himself, which is wild. It's really, really crazy. But he had 3 years in a row like that. And that's when I called him to ask him for breakfast.
Right.
And so I remember like his demeanor, and he's almost like exhausted. He's like, man, yeah, I really need some help. It'd be great if you could like help me. It might work out for both of us. Like that was what it was.
Right.
And
he also is a dad, FYI, of 3.
Yeah, his oldest is 9. So it might have been,
So
honestly, it might have been right around the
That's
same time.
what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm like, that must have been exhausting.
And he was opening Steel and Oak at that time too.
Oh my gosh.
And because of his construction background, like he had built a couple houses then and done a couple of renovations, he was like in charge of contracting and like basically the GC of building out the brewery.
The brewery?
Yeah.
So he was there quite a bit for the first like 12 months. Yeah.
That's
2014.
Funny.
So I guess the jump was me sitting in the back of his car learning. I learned so much. Year 1, I had a lot of help from him, obviously. Like he was at the point where he had too much business to take on.
Right.
And so new leads that he had never dealt with fell on my plate.
Right.
Pretty
awesome.
Amazing opportunity to start your career.
Yeah.
I had also had the opportunity to do every single open house that he didn't want to do, which was, man, there was probably a 6-month span where I was doing minimum 3 open houses a weekend.
Yes.
And you just meet so many people.
It's awesome.
I don't understand why realtors don't like open houses. It makes no sense to me. I did one last weekend, and within 2 minutes of sitting down in the lobby to start, one of the people that's lives in the building come just introduces himself to me. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm thinking of upsizing. I got a 2-bedroom here. Do you want to have a look at it?
Right.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Just being there in front of people, having a listing, even if it's not yours.
Right.
Sitting in a building, being able to talk about real estate and answer people's questions. Just be social, say hello to everyone. Like it's not rocket science, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I think year 1, I did 17 transactions, 4 or 5, like maybe 5 or 6 of them was from just sitting at open houses. Year 2, we got busy. Year 2, I did 76 on my own, and he probably did another 50-ish. We were in like the 120 range. And then
you went from 17 to 72.
76. Yeah.
76. Wow.
That's insane.
I asked Jamie how many he did in his first full calendar year, because I think he was 2008 and then 2009 was his first full calendar year. And he said something like 64 or something like that. So at the beginning of the year, I remember writing down like, I'm going to beat Jamie's first full year.
He's so competitive. He's like, let's go.
And I told one of my friends that because I did 17 for the first 8 or 9 months of 2014. And then 2015, that's my goal of whatever that works out to be. That works out to like 5 a month-ish, something like that. And he's like, man, you got to set a realistic goal. You're going from 17 to 60, like beating Jamie.
Right.
Like, well, you got to have a goal.
Yeah, you got to have something to hit for. Yeah.
And 76. We had a crazy year. 2015 was busy,
Oh, yeah,
and then
2015.
2016 went to like 140, I think 149
149 sales combined.
total. Yeah.
And there was just the two of you with one assistant?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a nuts year.
It was nuts.
I remember that. I was like,
Foreign buyer
everyone was
tax came
working
in.
so
Yeah.
much.
Right.
I was working
And so when did you scale to add more team members? At what kind of
Mhm.
It was
volume?
probably the second half of 2017 is
Right.
when 2016 and 17 were crazy because Jamie is a really good lead generator. He had a good website that we just like doubled down on content with. And that's when we started using social media.
Sure.
And so those 2 years, I was probably doing 100 by myself, and he was doing another 40 or 50. And it's crazy volume. It's like a ridiculous amount of time every. I made a joke.
What was
I
life
made a
like?
joke
You
that I worked
must have
on.
been working like
They have a
morning to
stamina
night.
though. This is the thing. Like you guys had the stamina because
Yeah,
you
fair.
know.
Coming into the business, I thought like I'm gonna give up 5 years of my life to be set up in this environment,
right.
and then decide where I want to go from there.
Good.
Sure.
Yes.
And the 5 years was crazy. 16, 17 were probably 9 months of the year were starting at 7, working till 2. And it was like, come home have a quick dinner. I got married in that period. That didn't last long.
With 100
was like,
deals,
yeah,
I'm
say
like, when are
hello.
you coming home?
Yeah.
I know. Say hello to the lady friend, and then you're on your computer,
Right.
writing contracts or preparing CMAs for the next day
Yeah.
or buyer tours. And that was a time where, like I said, I was doing Jamie. I remember being at the Realtor softball tournament one summer, and Jamie making a joke of me overhearing, and it's like a big point of pride for me. He's
Right.
like, nobody in Greater Vancouver sees more properties than this guy. He's like pointing at me, because there would be days where I don't know, I'm showing like 10 to 15 properties a day to 2 or 3 different buyers, and that's
Right.
like for a week, and you add that up, and that's like 60 in a week.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So how is because now that you have the chance to kind of do what you'd like to do, market has changed obviously since those crazy times. Now, what are you guys focused on, and what does the team look like?
Say consistency of marketing is a big point of pride for me. 2021 was a crazy year. 2022, I spent a lot of time and energy trying to get good at Instagram Reels. So this is where we met Kylie, just through like Facebook ads. Hey, we want to do more social content. And it evolved over time. Like the first maybe half of the year was me just like walking down a street and talking about something real estate related. And that felt a little bit uncomfortable. I really like the podcast platform because you can actually explain an idea rather than like a 30-second clip where you're trying to get everything out, and it doesn't get, first of all, you're not sharing all the details that you'd like to share, but second of all, it feels a bit fake to me anyway. So then it just evolved into more like property and personality reels. But like that was a big point of pride for me last year, even though we have a very down year in terms of sales as interest rates go up. So I think having goals that you can control in your business each year are super, super important, because we can't control that the interest rate is now 7.2%. Or we can't control a foreign buyer tax coming in, or a stress test coming in, and it's crazy looking.
Tax, everything.
It's crazy.
Everything.
I'm 9.5 years in, and it feels like every single year there's a big change.
Yes.
So now you're just prepared, being like, oh, what's the next one?
We went
gonna
from
be?
2021 to 2022. 2021 was 10-year highs, or 2030, I think, market highs in volume for a number of transactions, and then we went from that to 2022, which is 10-year low in terms of like market volume.
Market volume.
So, everyone's business kind of went through some adjustments, and it was basically just, adapting to the changes and things like that. And I think, and learning a new skill in that with that time as well, to learn about the Reels, Instagram, and try to kind of really make the content really valuable and extract it, and take a lot of experimentation there too, which is fantastic. So you guys still ran a great volume in 2022 though.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's like a very privileged, and I catch myself all the time being like, yeah, 2022 was a really slow year. Right? It felt
you did
like
over 100, right?
We did 118, I think, last year.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny now, though, being at this scale that we have other realtors on the team. So I feel this obligation provide, like to be able to help them get through a difficult year.
Right.
And last year was challenging where people on the team are frustrated. So you kind of have to adjust and keep going. And that's why I say, like, yes, we have a business model, but it adjusts
so much
as the market changes and as marketing changes, really.
Sure. Yeah. So what are you looking forward to, Denny? Like, let's say, do you have your, now you've sacked, okay.
Where are you going?
Yeah. But you've sacked those that, you
Ibiza.
kind of completed that 5 years of complete dedication, right? So like, what's the next 5 years look like for Denny?
Bit of a question mark. I always wanted this idea of freedom, and I didn't really know how to define it. And every year it feels like there's different interests or different hobbies that are important to me. But it was never like a money thing. It's never like I want to make $1 million a year. The exact number doesn't really mean much to me. I just want to be able to wake up and do what I really, really enjoy every day.
Right.
And I really still love real estate. I like being involved in those conversations. I really like negotiating. I like helping people plan this like crazy juggle of buying and selling at the same time and answering their questions on interest rates, even though I have no clue.
Right.
But I like being able to de-stress people as they go through these challenges in a very, very stressful situation in their lives. And I get a lot out of that still. So I see myself being a full-time realtor for the foreseeable future. Honestly, I like it more than I thought I would, but I really like the coaching aspect of having a team, of having newer agents that are maybe haven't seen as many transactions or haven't had the conversations that I've had, and just being able to share experiences with them. I like the camaraderie of the team. So I like having the people on the team.
Right.
But I'm also finding a lot of value in like de-stressing and being out of town. Even if I never turn off my phone, and I won't probably until I'm dead. But because I enjoy it so much, like being out of town and someone calling me and asking me a question about like the timing of the listing or like a contract question or something like that is fun for me.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm missing something if I'm not answering the phone on vacation. But I'm getting a lot more out of being out of town in slow periods to just kind of like unwind.
Adjust a bit.
What do you do that in nature? Do you do that in cities?
Yeah, like what is your peace mode? Like what do you do? To ground yourself.
Denny go?
Remember the first 4 or 5 years were nuts, like 90, 100-hour weeks all the time, in busy seasons anyway. 2017, I started working out again. I feel a bit like awkward saying this, but like I felt like I was fat.
Yeah, so you're like, oh.
And I
an athlete.
I weigh like 180 pounds now. I was up to like almost 220.
Right.
So it was uncomfortable for me. Like I sat down and my underwear flips over and like
you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was weird. I never felt like this. Like I played sports at a pretty high level and I was in really good shape. And 5 years of real estate and picking up cheeseburgers in between appointments.
Totally, we all have felt that.
Totally.
When they know you at Wendy's, they're like making your order as you drive up. Like this guy.
Is when it was really busy in the day. You'd go to drive through and the car would still smell like it.
Yeah.
And then I have to roll down all the windows and like air it out and then call a couple agents on the way and they're like, we just did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just how it goes. Or like Starbucks was like a go-to.
Totally.
Gas station, bread garden.
Oh man. Yeah, because you were in Richmond. That was tough.
So it's
bread garden. Yes.
It's kind of fun seeing naturally like my priorities shift over time. Like for the first 5 years, like I said, it was like 100% get as established as you possibly can and spend every waking hour doing this.
Right.
And then 2017 turns around and I'm like, I feel like shit. I need to do something different that I feel better in the morning. I feel like I have more energy. And so I started working out and that just became an obsession too. And so now if I go a day without sweating, without 30 to 60 minutes of exercise, I feel gross. Then it went from the treadmill the first day of like January 1st, 2017 was like 3 minutes. And it just like kept getting more and more and more. And now like it's pretty easy for me to run 10K and don't even really think about it. But
do you do that in the morning?
Or it varies. Yeah, our industry's nuts, right?
Cardio king over here. It must be hard to be like next to Jamie though, because he's like, he has those glove shoes. That's like next level.
In those toe shoes.
Yeah.
I think he regrets buying those because now people put him in that category.
The toe shoe guy.
And he's not really.
I just did it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He's different than me with exercise. He likes having something to train for like once every 2 years.
Cool.
Right.
But then he'll take like a few months off and whatever. Versus I like the consistency of not getting fat again.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, this is it.
Totly. And
Carnivore diet? Is that the next thing?
honestly, I've considered it.
You know what? We just met somebody and he's
Yeah.
like, he trimmed out.
Yeah, and he's into like
He's-
ultra.
Yeah.
I
was
don't
like,
know about
whoa.
ultra marathoning, but he's into like this kind of the
He believes
extreme
in it.
side of the sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll never be me. I couldn't even see myself running a marathon. Like I would just get so bored. I need to be doing something at all times, and just like running for 4 hours seems like.
So
a
what do you do when
nightmare
you
to me.
work out?
I like running, but I like pushing myself for 5 kilometers.
Okay.
Mhm.
Being like, okay, yesterday I did it in 23 minutes. How did I do it in 22? 30?
23
Right.
minutes?
Whatever.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
I got to get on this.
Do you think like, obviously, Denny, you've been super successful in real estate, building a business, building a team, one of the top teams in the city. Do you think like, and you really went all in, you really kind of committed all in. Do you think that trait is necessary to kind of hit these high, like,
Depends what your goals are.
mm-hmm,
I think it's necessary if you want freedom.
mm-hmm,
I don't like how many part-time realtors do you know that struggle or aren't a realtor anymore after 3 or 4 years? It is
Right.
an extremely difficult business to
Mhm.
start. And I had the fortunate opportunity to work with someone who was established.
Mhm.
And that's why whenever I meet new people in the industry, they're like, how do I get started? What do I do? How do I learn? It's always pick someone in an area that you want to sell in or you want to live in long term. Call the top 10 realtors there
Mhm.
and ask if you can just follow them around for 6 months. Learn.
That's it.
mm-hmm.
There are a lot of realtors,
So was there?
individual agents that have too much business or have leads come in that they don't have time for or can't deal
Right.
with or whatever.
Especially prominent ones in farms. I find that that's really like just for people that are looking out to get a part of a team or to learn from somebody that's established. The ones that have established farms in specific neighborhoods always have more leads than they can give or that they can handle.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
And when you were like kind of initially starting to work with James, nothing was promised to you. Like nothing was kind of like, okay, we're going to like, this is the trajectory that we're going to take. It was just kind of like, I just want to observe.
mhm.
I didn't even really have a goal getting in terms of being an owner. Like, as I said, I was a pretty shy kid and I knew I could work harder than other people,
Mhm.
but I didn't want to necessarily be a face.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw people on bus stops and I'm like, man, that doesn't feel natural to me at all.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I just want to be like someone that is super knowledgeable and everyone or like locally knows as
Mhm.
like the best real estate guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't need to be a celebrity. But then I got to the point where like I think the reason Jamie and I work so well together is we have very different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And he now has 3 kids and 2 dogs and is in a different phase of life. And he doesn't want to answer phone calls at 7:30 p.m.
Mhm.
And I love answering phone calls at 7:30
Right.
p.m. So it just like naturally worked well that we fit each other's weaknesses. And a few years later, we decide to partner and grow.
Right.
That's great.
So let's say, I'm curious because not everyone has built a successful team and it's a really difficult formula to kind of craft. And you mentioned that it's always fluid and it's adapting at all times.
Mhm.
But let's say you were giving advice to the young James and Denny to kind of like get your team started. What kind of 3 big things would you suggest?
Don't get married to an idea.
Yes.
Understand that each individual that comes onto the team is going to have different priorities. And you can't just have one blanket role. It can't be like, okay, this is your job. You need to go cold calling 2 days a week. You need to do 22 open houses a month or, whatever it is. You need to understand what's important to people.
Mhm.
And different people are motivated by different things. Some people want the flexibility of lifestyle, which in our industry, good luck.
Mhm.
Some people are motivated by money. Others are motivated by spending Sunday mornings with their kid.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing that I sucked at early on that I feel like I've learned to be very good at is being a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that is with your team or with clients, like my listing appointments now, and I talk to the team about this all the time, is just like, I'm interviewing them. They can ask me a bunch of questions and I'll answer all the questions. And I feel very confident doing very little research and answering all of their questions. But I want to know a lot about them in order to figure out how to answer questions. Like I have this line that I replay in my head all the time. That is, communication is not what you say, it's how the other person hears it. So if what's important to them is service and marketing, perfect. I'm going to spend time on that. If what's important is just tell me how to get the best price. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me if I need to move that couch over there or whatever. Then you're spending time on different things. But having a blanketed, whether it's to the team, a blanketed conversation about, okay, like these are your goals for the year. This is what I want you to do. Or with a listing, with a client of, like, this is my listing presentation. I'm going to go through these 5 things and I'm going to check off the box. It doesn't work.
Wow.
It doesn't work for everyone.
Thank you for being so transparent, Denny. Do you mind if I ask you some insider secret tips from a top listing agent?
I will answer any questions.
Okay. Because Denny and James are one of the top listing agents in Greater Vancouver.
Yes.
So, getting to pick the brain of one is something that's not.
It's rare, people.
Rare people.
It's rare.
Can you bring us through your listing process, like how you prepare from preparation to in meeting to like follow up?
Preparation has shifted dramatically over the years, right? So at the beginning of my career, where I didn't know a lot about property types and buildings and valuations, I would spend hours and hours preparing a CMA. Versus today, in a neighborhood that I know really well, I might spend 20 minutes. And it's really easy because, first of all, I already know the sales that have happened there in the last 6 months.
Right.
So I'm really just like drawing a square on Paragon and picking the 6 addresses that I already know are comparable to this home.
You've gone through most of them, probably. Yes.
So I'd say the preparation time has been cut drastically. The listing presentation itself, like I just mentioned, has shifted a lot over time. Like when I was early in the career, I'd be very nervous for listing appointments and like have 7 things that I wanted to discuss, marketing and how we show, and we don't use lock boxes and like all these little check marks, right? Versus now it's just, I like going in and asking a few questions.
Okay.
And then just completely steering the conversation. First, like literally the first easy one is, have you sold before?
Right.
If they say yes, perfect. How was that experience? They're just going to tell you, guess what? They're going to tell you everything they hated about the last realtor.
That's right. That's what they're going to tell you. That's what they're going to tell you.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't feel like they were, they communicated very well. We were on market for like 3 or 4 months. I only heard from them for 1 week. Okay, great. Well, like you're going to hear from me 3 or 4 times a day, and you're going to have to tell me to stop talking to you or like stop texting you because we communicate like over the top.
And then you're going to miss me when we're done.
Totally. Yeah. But it's just like a sequence of questions based on how they answer. Yeah. Where are you going? What's your timeline? Have you started looking over there? Have you talked to a mortgage broker about that? Like, and then you're often, I really like this too, and you have to word it carefully, but like telling them as you walk through their home, what buyers are going to say about it, right? Buyers are going to say it's funny what some sellers will think are the highlights of their home.
Right.
Like the water feature in the backyard.
Yeah.
Versus to most consumers, they're like, man, that's going to cost me 10 grand to remove that water feature. Right. Yeah. So I think that's a really valuable experiment to go through with a client once you have maybe built a little bit of trust, because some sellers can take offense to some of the things.
Right.
But it's really valuable, I think, to tell them the feedback, especially if maybe we're listing on the high side.
Okay.
Tell them what a buyer is going to say as they walk through the door, so that when after 2 weeks on market and you have another private showing and the feedback is everything that you've told them, they're prepared for it, and that just builds so much trust moving forward in terms of like getting to the solution.
Yeah. Right. So how do you present the actual listing agreement? Do you send it to them through email? Do you present them in paper?
It's different for each person, depending how they remember. Being a really, really good realtor to me is being a really, really good listener. So after this series of questions, understanding what personality type this person is, how do they want to hear, how do they want to be communicated with, how do they want to receive paperwork? How do you feel about online signatures? Great, I do it all the time for my job. Okay, are you happy with me just sending you the contract?
Great.
Via DocuSign? Yeah, I'd prefer that. I don't want you to come, I don't want you to come back here and waste half an hour going through it with me in person. Perfect. There's one document we have to go through. It's a property disclosure statement. It's a questionnaire. You're going to need to initial each box. Would you rather me call you and put the boxes there on DocuSign, or would you rather me come back tomorrow and go through it with you? Or I've got one in my bag right now that we can go through on my iPad.
Yeah.
But like,
so do you do your presentation with an iPad or do you use paper?
I say the last time I brought paper to a listing appointment, probably 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's always on the iPad.
He's
These
taking
are pro
notes.
tips.
You guys, he's taking notes.
I'm the paper guy.
Everyone has to know their people.
Again, it
you know
depends,
what I mean?
right?
It just
Like,
depends on your person.
Yeah. An older couple that's been living in a house for 55 years that doesn't have an email address.
That's right.
Of course, you're bringing paper. Like, of course. You just need to know who you're talking to. Yeah. But at the same time, on the other side, a 23-year-old person that's selling their 1-bedroom condo, if you ask them to like fill out a piece of paper, they're going to be like, what? Who is this guy? He's supposed to be the marketing genius on Instagram. He's asking me to sign this piece of paper.
You really don't. You have to, it goes back to what you're saying. It's about being a really good listener. And I think about knowing your clients is everything. And I think the best type of business is actually having clients in all different demographics. So you can kind of keep things interesting, I mean, you know, so.
Keeps you on top of it
on
too,
top
right?
of things, yeah.
Because if you never have ever worked with a person over the age of 50.
Right.
Oh my
and
goodness.
then a 73-year-old lady calls and says, I would need to sell my home. Can you come help me?
You're
going to answer the
$10
questions.
in Shaughnessy.
Totally. You're not going to answer the questions the right way. You're not going to present information in a way that she's going to understand it. You need to, And I think that's a really valuable thing that I didn't really appreciate early in my career is how kind of wide a range the people that we work with.
You really do. Yeah.
Totally.
Your team looks like from the outside, it looks like you guys work with all different kind of forms of the rainbow, which is so nice to see.
Totally.
Is there any secret sauce for you guys? Like, I mean, everyone has their thing. You know, I know some agents, generosity. Some of it is kind of face-to-face meetings once in a while. Like, what is it for you guys that keeps your current long-lasting relationships strong?
I don't really believe in the term secret sauce, but I'll say what I think our strengths are. I think our strengths are we market to our database well.
Okay.
And every year, it's funny for me to say that because I think we suck at it. But
we all are hard on ourselves.
Totally. But every year we're trying to improve that, which means we're doing a fairly good job. I think if every year we're trying to get better at doing this stuff. I think, have done a few good events each year that people really love coming to. And one of which we're lucky to do is the Steel and Oak anniversary party.
Yeah.
I want to go to that.
Come next year.
I mean, I should.
It's such a fun day and clients love it. Love it. They get a few free beers. They come to say hi to you. It's a bit exhausting because now we're at this point, I'm 9.5 years in. Jamie is almost 16 years in, I believe. And we're at this point where we have like 350 people show up that are just GD clients. And so it is very challenging, first of all, to talk to everyone.
Right.
Yes.
But each one is like you're trying to catch up on life in 5 or 6 minutes and then on to the next. And it is exhausting, but it's so much fun and super valuable. And it doesn't have to be that scale. I know like a few younger realtors that have expressed the same sentiment too of like, this is a really valuable event that we put on every year for our business. It costs us, I don't know, $5,000 or $6,000, but it doesn't have to be that for you. It could be like a picnic that you put on in a park that has 40 people show up or whatever. But just to have that same like grouping of like other people who are really happy working with you are there and you like kind of network with similar type people. It builds the culture of GD.
Right.
It's cool. So cool.
Yeah.
That is a strength. I love that. I think in front of like what I've realized this year is a lot of people that are 9 to 16 years, just like you guys, they're constantly trying to get better still. I think that's something that people forget about. You don't have to just kind of like give up. And people are actually spending a lot more time with their clients. They're valuing their clients a lot more. And you guys do such a good job. And I think that's I think your secret sauce is listening. I mean, that's my take on it, but that's it.
It's a learned skill and you have to be conscious of it though. Right? Because I remember a couple of listening appointments where I felt like I did everything right and I like said all the right things and I felt like it went really well and they choose someone else. And then so always like thinking about what went wrong in that situation, being like, maybe I just wasn't presenting the information that they wanted to hear or they were interested in. And so that's when it kind of shifted my listing performance to like, I'm asking them questions.
Sure.
And then basing information off of what they want.
Increase your closing ratio?
Huge.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
I found especially with people that are older than me. Like it's fairly easy to sound like an expert when you're talking to a 24-year-old that is selling their first condo. And, and I'm like the old guy in the room.
Yeah.
Versus a couple that's been there for 35 years, that's in their 60s, that's downsizing. They often have the opposite impression of me coming in. They think, oh, this guy's a bit of a newer guy. He's really young. I don't know if he's going to be able to be the same as, John down the street that's been selling our neighborhood for 45 years.
Right.
What they don't know is John sells 2 homes a year and doesn't really actually, I like saying, years don't mean experience. Sales mean experience.
Right.
And experiences equal education and skill, not years in a business. But
I want you to sell my house.
What about me?
You bought it. I actually had to negotiate that.
I'm
too easygoing.
Last thing I'll say.
Yes, of course.
This listening idea, again, being really conscious of listening and presenting information in a way that other people hear. This works hilariously well in negotiations too. Right? I can't present the exact same information and say the same thing to Morgan as I would to Michael, as I would to whoever the other agent in this transaction are.
Right.
You have to understand that like some agents are newer, some get emotional during negotiations, some get defensive.
Right.
And you have to be able to like bring them back down to reality of what is the goal. And information has to be shared in a different, maybe tone, different manner by presenting different things to different people to get to that goal. And that is solely done through observing. And I was thinking about this on the way over. Intuition is a funny thing. I think my intuition has improved over time, but I've also think that I've learned to listen to it more. And so I don't know if that's something you're just born with, like this gut feel.
Right.
Or is it something that is a skill that is developed because you acknowledge it and you pay attention to it. And then you also like reflect on, oh, I didn't listen to it that time. Things didn't work out the way that I wanted to versus.
Or you didn't speak up about it when you felt it. Yeah.
Or like it felt uncomfortable to go with that, but that's what I felt was the right decision at the time. And it worked out really well. So I think reflecting on it helps it improve maybe.
Right.
But,
so have you always been more cerebral, more logical then, or are you more like intuitive, guttural?
Introspective, is that the right word?
Okay.
I reflect a lot on like how situations went and how I'd like them to go better. And that is like, again, my brain works. I talk about being obsessed with things, and like early in my life it was basketball, and for the last decade it's been real estate, and it's like almost 24/7. Is rarely that I'm not thinking about real estate and thinking about a conversation I had with one of the realtors on our team, or a client, or Jamie, or whatever that is. But I'd say I think about it all the time, and I think about how to improve, and it's mostly the way that I word things to come to the outcome that I think is best for this situation.
Right.
And often you'll like come out of a situation and be like, I was a bit emotional there. Why was I emotional? Like, why did I get a bit defensive that the seller had a different, opinion with me, or things like that? But I think it's really important to acknowledge those things. We make mistakes every single day.
Yeah.
Whether it be communication or, whatever. But I think it's valuable to continue to grow. And I always like say to myself, there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
Just keep getting slightly better.
Right.
And you get better by like thinking about that stuff
and
rather than just
and doing a feedback loop and, trying to improve. Are you a big reader, Denny?
I love podcasts.
Right.
And I'd say reading, I find that I zone out and don't absorb much.
Okay.
Versus like listening and asking questions. I feel
a
like
listener.
I absorb. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, listener is good.
Listener is the way to go. I'm the same way. I hate reading books.
It's funny, like I would read books, especially early in my career. I would, read business books or Frederick Eklund or, whoever. And I would
Love the soft guy.
I would find that if I read a book, I don't really get much out of it. But if I go through and I like underline a few things and then go back and just read the underlined parts,
Right.
I'll like absorb a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then podcasting became a big thing, and
Yeah.
I like listening to people. I find that podcasting is like a unedited real life experience version of communication versus books are an edited version to get an agenda, or like have some sort of concept.
Yeah.
So I like the real life stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. You know, and that's great. And knowing yourself and how you learn is going to be key. So, for example, sitting in the back of a car, observing James talking over the phone worked incredibly well for Denny.
Yeah.
If you and I were sitting behind, because that's probably not how we learn. We learn by
Doing.
like,
Jumping in.
just jumping in.
Which was like, but
Um,
that back then, that was like 07. We
Yeah.
were like really desperate. Like I'm 08. It was
Yeah.
like, oh.
So I think knowing yourself is really important, and knowing and kind of knowing what is going
Works for you.
work for you, and
Yes.
also work for the team, and work for your business is something that's really key. But something that was highlighted to me with what Denny last said is that we can't control outcomes, but we can control our behavior, what we say, what we do, how we approach certain problems, issues, situations. We have control, and we can reflect on those and try to improve for the next time if there is an element of improvement. But I know a lot of people that beat themselves up because they don't hit certain outcomes. They just terrorize themselves inside and out. And I think that's something that I've learned, because I used to be like that. I used to like think back to certain situations and kick myself and be like, oh my gosh, like I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know how many times I've looked in the mirror and been like, you're an idiot.
I don't want to be in the mirror.
So like, we can't control the outcomes, but we can, try to improve our processes, our systems, our behavior, and how we kind of conduct ourselves as well in every kind of in every way. And when Denny was explaining about his listing presentations and making that shift from features and benefit style selling to really more that consultative selling, that getting to know each other conversational style, it's a shift that a lot of top agents have to take in order for them to really take big
Their
strides and
business.
into their next level,
Yeah.
because that's something that's really great, and it's always going to be adapting and shifting and changing as the seasons change and as the market changes as well, and as their team grows as well. They're going to be talking about certain things that were weaknesses before that are strengths. Like I remember when I first started, I said, the great thing about hiring me is you're getting me. Like, I'll be there. I'm going to be there 24/7. And then now I say it as a strength. I'm like, it's better. You get my team. Like, you
better
don't
than
want me. You don't want me. They're better than me. They're like going to be more attentive. Like, they're going to be more responsive. Their turnaround time is going to be like 5 minutes, and mine's going to be like, 1 or 2 hours. So it's a bit different. So I think it's it's always going to evolve. And I think that's something that's really, exciting about what we get to do, is that we have the freedom to make those shifts and adjustments, and the control and the ability to be able to do those things. So that's something that's really refreshing and fun about our business. And that's why I think I'm like Denny. I've never gotten bored of real estate.
I go in and out, but I would say no, but even just now, I mean, it's funny. It's almost like the market had to slow down for me to even get even more excited about it. Because now I'm like, I went to a showing yesterday. It was like a 400 square foot condo, and I was like, I love this. I was
Right.
like taking pictures, and I was like, oh, you could do this, you could do that, and and renovations and new product. It never gets bored for me. It really doesn't, and I think that's the best part about our business. And another thing is our colleagues, like our really our associates, our colleagues that we actually get to work with. It's amazing how many years have gone by, like a decade for you, and the relationships you make with the people that you work with. Not only work with, but work in the industry with.
Totally.
And it's really, if you take a moment and just take appreciation for that, we have an incredible industry. And if you allow yourself to really just be a little open to that, you can make some long-lasting relationships.
Yeah.
And what you and Jamie have done
Yeah.
is something that's, I have something similar. Mike has something similar with his team. They're people that you really rely on. It's pretty special.
Have you and James ever had
A tiff?
a tiff,
Like a
or
fight?
fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Has it ever come
yes!
close to divorce?
Oh, me and Jamie together?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant with another realtor.
Oh!
No. You know that between the two of you.
I wouldn't say an argument.
Oh, okay.
I'd say we're very much on the same page in terms of like where we want this business
Oh
to
no,
go.
I thought the other way. I thought what he was thinking
Okay.
against
Oh.
another
Yeah,
person.
okay.
With another realtor?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Without naming
let's
names,
go.
tell us the story.
I have a blacklist on my phone.
All right.
It's short. There's only maybe
3?
8 or 10.
Oh,
realtors on there.
Really? Yeah.
This is. Hey, I'm a decade in now. Maybe
That's not
maybe
bad.
one or
This
two
one
people get
doesn't
answered
listen.
here.
This one ignores calls, you know?
Oh,
like,
I make notes.
seriously.
I'll be like 2014 treating me like crap. You know, like whatever.
Oh, wow.
He's so competitive. I love it. I think as you
Now who's
age, you have to adapt with what you said about with what your goals are too, right? Because there'll come a point where one of you guys or whatever is going to have to take 40, it's never going to be 50-50. It might be 30-70, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
Just part of it's a marriage,
100%.
So I don't know.
It's funny that we're not people that count hours or deals. Our roles are different, and we understand that there is a very squiggly line down the middle of like what our responsibilities are for this business to continue to grow and to thrive.
Mhm.
And there's a little bit of crossover, but like my job is to be more in front of people and more in front of clients. His job is to be more a little bit behind the scenes, oversee Rachel, our website, and like this technology stuff behind the scenes that I don't really know or feel like it would be a strength of mine. Like working on WordPress is not, like I'd have to educate myself, and it would take a lot of time to be good at that stuff.
Right.
One thing I wanted to mention on the reputation thing, on the other side of the spectrum, as a realtor in our industry, understand that your reputation is super, super important. Even for like us as a team, when we have multiple offers coming in on a listing and I'm not even dealing with it, Monica or Lucas is dealing with it, I'll see them come into the email and just open them because I'm curious. And I'll send a text to Lucas and be like, oh, Massey or Rachel or that person was awesome to deal with 3 years ago when they bought this condo from us.
Right.
Solid client.
Yeah, make sure you treat them really well.
Yes.
Versus
somebody else.
Tom.
Right.
Tom was ruthless.
Right.
Joe
Watch
is
out for
just
that guy.
not fun to work with, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think reputation's everything.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is. Yeah. And being kind to one another and being, a professional in our industry is what you guys have really amplified
Yeah.
in
And
what
it's-
you're doing.
It's really rare in our market to actually have partnerships that work well,
It really is, actually.
because a lot of people do these
Yes.
partnerships and then like you see them split off like after like a 1 or
Yeah.
2 years. But the fact that you guys have stayed together, like, is there a kind of, obviously you mentioned roles and responsibilities.
staying
and
in each other's
staying in each other's lane.
in
Yeah,
lane.
staying in your own
Your own
lane.
lane. I love that.
Besides that, is there
Yeah.
anything else that you could give for people that might want to partner?
Say a few things. I think we're both like, we want to make money, but we're not money hungry.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
So like, we're
yes.
not counting pennies. We're not like counting hours and deals and saying, okay, well, because I did this many more deals than you this year, I should make 60% of our
Mhm.
checks and things like that.
Yeah.
We have a goal that in like, years from now, we want it to look like this, and these are the ways that we think we're going to get there. I think we also both just respect how much easier our lives are with the other person in it.
Right.
He really helped boost my growth in this business.
Mhm.
And I think that's very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've given him a lot more time. He said this, I think, when we started talking about partnerships, he said, you either need to make me make more money or save me time for this to work out. But when both things happen, that's, I feel like, when we figured out that this is probably a
Okay, I
long-term
gotta
thing.
write that down.
That's when like 1 + 1 = 3 or 5. Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
old analogy where you're
Yes.
able to actually like, accelerate because of the combination.
Yeah.
Right.
I think if I was to just summarize in one sentence, I would say we both respect what the other person does for the business
Mm-hmm.
greatly. And so we're not going to nitpick small things along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love that.
That is amazing, and I think, it's such a testament to your friendship and for your, being on the same page and being great business leaders to not let the little things ruin something that's so wonderful that you've built together, which is something that's really rare, and it's hard to actually see that in this marketplace when partnerships work out well. So that's great. Denny, if you can believe it, it's been quite some time. So we might do a two-parter for this
yeah,
one.
I love that.
Yeah, awesome. So Denny, I just want to thank you so much for being on the Oakwyn podcast and being with Oakwyn as the brokerage too. We're so proud to be working with you and James and the rest of the team. We're just over the moon that you're with our brokerage as well, with our community. So thank you, Denny. Any final thought or last word that you want to?
Last words. Last a piece of advice for any of those agents that are listening right now.
Well, I'll say thank you to you guys too. Thank you for Oakwyn. Oakwyn is a brand that didn't exist in real estate in Greater Vancouver. There's a lot of old school people that run old school style brokerages, and Oakwyn is different. Oakwyn has a different feeling, a different personality in Greater Vancouver, and it's cool to be part of that brand. So thank you for putting it together.
Why,
Flipping
thank
you at 20. I mean, 100. 20 doesn't go very far anymore. So
you know what? I would say this is such a, I love that, because I think we're so grateful every day that we get to work with people that love what they do.
Right.
And I think that's a huge part of it, a huge part of that tone, that
100%.
personality. So it's amazing how many Oakwynites do Oakwynite deals or Oakwyn deals back and forth
with each other.
and how easy, when I hear it from them, they're like, it's easy because we just love what we do. It's
on the same page.
They're on the same page.
So
we appreciate you guys, and we just can't wait to see where it goes.
So
let's go.
Thank you so much, Denny, for being part of the Oakwyn podcast. Folks, if you've enjoyed this podcast, Morgan, what do we do?
Rate us 5 out of 5 on that platform of choice. And if you'd like to join Oakwyn, go to oakwyn.com/join and put in that message box.
Unite 2023, and you'll receive a free piece of mystery swag. And thank you so much, Denny, for being part of the podcast. Thank you. Okay, till next time, guys.